Today's lesson is on proving triangles congruent. We will be learning 3 out of the 5 ways that triangles can be congruent to each other, and we will be solving proofs to figure these out. Okay, so the first one is called side, side, side. If sides are congruent to 3 sides of another triangle, then the triangles are going to be congruent if the 3 sides are congruent. A way to shorten this is side, side, side. Okay, another one is side angle side. So we have 2 sides and an included angle are congruent. Then the triangles will be congruent. A way to shorten this, we're going to say it's side angle side. Okay, so this picture, an included angle would be the angle in between the 2 sides. So this right here would be the included angle. Okay? The last reason we will learn today is called angle side angle. So we have 2 angles and an included side are congruent, then the triangles are congruent. So for this one, angle side angle, okay, I'm going to have 2 angles. Doesn't matter where they are. So I'm just going to say this one and this one. The included side would be the side in between the 2 angles. Okay, and the last one, this one actually does not work. ASS. There's no swearing in geometry, so this one does not work. Okay, an example of this one would look like an angle here and a side and then a side after that one. So the angle has to be in between the 2 sides for it to work, or else it will not work for this one. So no ass works. Okay. Moving on, here's the first proof. Okay, to start this proof, I'm going to go ahead and write down the given. DB bisects angle ADC. So if DB bisects angle ADC, DB bisecting angle ADC, I know that angle 1 will be congruent to angle 2. Okay, because this is an angle bisector. Angle bisectors make angles congruent. Okay, so this is going to be my first A. Okay, I do have a side, so remember it can go side, angle, side, not angle, side, side. So I'm going to put my side up above right here. I know that AD is congruent to CD. Here's my side. And I have to find another side to get this to work. Okay, so I'm going to look at the picture. I have AD and CD. Well, the only other side that could work would be this one here, BD. Okay, this side is reflexive. It is congruent to itself. It's part of this triangle and this triangle, so this will work. I'm going to put an arrow to it and say BD is congruent to BD. Okay, here's my step 1, here's step 2. Now I have side, angle, side. This works, so I'm going to group it. Once I have my 3 reasons, I go ahead and group it, and now say the 2 triangles are congruent. Triangle ABD is congruent to triangle CBD. This is step 3. Okay, so step 1, that's old stuff. That is definition of angle bisector. Why are the 2 angles congruent? Because an angle bisector is in the problem. Step 2, why is something congruent to itself? Because it's reflexive. And step 3, why are the 2 triangles congruent? Side, angle, side. Okay, you don't have to do this, but it helps in the beginning just to see where this comes from. This is a side, here's an angle, and the last one is a side. Looking at example 2, we have 2 angles that are complementary. Okay, notice they are complementary to the same angle. I have the same angle here, angle 5 and angle 5. If you remember your reason, if 2 angles are comp to the same angle, these will be congruent. So go ahead and write the givens out. Because these are both complementary to the same angle, we can kind of cross these off. We have angle 5 twice, and we are left with angle 1 and angle 2. So we know angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Okay, and we're done with the first angle in our picture. So now we have an A. All right, again, I have to do side, or angle, side, angle. Remember my choices? So let's see if I can get another side or if I can get another angle. I can't get a side because I do have C as a midpoint of AE, so I'm going to go ahead and write that down underneath. Now, if C is the midpoint of AE, this is the midpoint of this segment, AE, just this one. So that means that this side, AC, is congruent to this side, CE. So AC is congruent to CE. Okay, let's go ahead and put our 1 and our 2 down. And that makes this to be a side. We have AS. Now again, we can't do ASS, but we can do ASA. Look to see if there's something I can pull from the diagram here. Okay, this picture, anytime you have something that looks sort of like a bow tie, you are going to pull out these types of angles. These types of angles are vertical angles. So that's my last A. From the diagram, I can say that angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. Okay, there's my step 3. Now I have an angle, I have a side, I have my last one, which is an angle. I'm going to group them all together. And now I can say the two triangles are congruent. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle EDC. And that brings me to step 4. So step 1, how can we go from 1 and 5 are comp, 2 and 5 are comp, to 1 and 2 are congruent? Well, I have to use this word, complementary. So I'm going to say comps, because there's 2, of the same angle, because the same angle is listed, are congruent, because that's what I'm saying right here. Step 2, how do I know that these two segments are congruent? Because I know the definition of this word, a definition of a midpoint. Step 3, how do I know that angle 3 is congruent to angle 4? Its vertical angles are congruent. Not definition of vertical angles, but vertical angles are congruent. And last but not least, step 4, how do I know that these two triangles are congruent to each other? Because of angle, side, angle. And we're done. Moving on to example 3, we have BD is perpendicular to AC. Okay, let's go ahead and write that down. Alright, so perpendicularity means that two angles are going to be right angles right here, ABD and DBC. So we have angle ABD is a right angle, and we also can say that angle DBC is a right angle. So knowing that these two are right angles, we know that all right angles are congruent, not definition of right angle. ABD is congruent to angle DBC. Alright, so right now I have step 1 and step 2. This gives me an angle. Okay, I need angle, or side angle, side. Looks like I do have another angle. So I have angle ADB is congruent to angle CDB. Go ADB right here and angle CDB right here. Okay, that's my two angles. Okay, can I squeeze a side in between? Looking at the picture, BD is my reflexive side. That is a side of both triangles. So I have BD is congruent to BD. Okay, again, this is given. I don't need an arrow coming from it. That's reason 3. Here is my side, and now I have angle, side, angle. Once I have the 3 reasons, I can go ahead and group them and say what I want to prove. ABD is congruent to triangle CBD, and that is step 4. All right, go ahead and do my reasons. Step 1, how do I know that the right angles form? Because I know the definition of perpendicular lines. 2, how do I know that these are congruent? Because they are right angles. All right angles, congruent. 3. How do I know that something equals itself? Because I know that it's reflexive. And step 4, how do I know that triangles are congruent? Because of angle, side, angle stated right here. Last proof. Example 4, so I have AE is congruent to CF and ED is congruent to FD. Okay, right now I'm having two small segments. What I could do is add them together to make this large segment AD and this large segment CD. Okay, go ahead and write down your two givens. Okay, so we have the two givens written down. We are going to add them together and get AD is congruent to CD. Okay, that's going to be my first side of the triangle. I'm going to label this S. I also have B as a midpoint of AC. Go ahead and write that down, your next given. Okay, since it's the midpoint of AC, I know that AB will now be congruent to BC. Okay, now I have my second side. Is there a third side? Well, I could do another reflexive side. Weird, it's the same letters, BD. BD is congruent to itself, and hopefully you know right by now that is reflexive. That's the reflexive reason. So we have side, side. This is our third side. We're going to go ahead and group those three. Now I can say the two triangles are congruent to each other, which is step 4, and go ahead and list my reasons. Step 1, how did two small segments become a larger segment? Well, we added them together. Step 2, how did we go from midpoint to congruent segments? Because I know what the definition of a midpoint is. Step 3, something equals itself, that is reflexive. And last but not least is step 4, side, side, side. That's it for today. Hooray!